Hello and welcome to Supreme Commander Forge Alliance Forever. This is another replay review. So, we have a slightly higher rating than before. We're reviewing this game for Lord Autismo. He donated $10 through Patreon in return for this review. If you want a review or Subcom lesson, then message me and you can avail of my expertise, I suppose. So let's see what Lord Autismo, all the things he did wrong. Let's point them out to him, explain how the map works, and yeah, let's get into it. So he's UEF, he's on Tag Craftius, so let's just slow down for a second. Tag Craftius, quite a unique map. So it's a very complex map, I would say. There are many different things going on. It's a high mass map. It's a 10 by 10. It has a lot of water on the outside. The landmass, therefore, rather small. Many mass extractors all over the map. So you can open on this map in different ways. You can open with second land. You can open with second air. You can make second navy, potentially, although that is a less common approach. But let's see what Autismo goes for. So he's gone for, looks like second land, third air. Somehow hard to see exactly which it is. Now let's look at the expansion. So first things first on the expansion. You have to be aware of labs is step one, right? So you've mech marine. I think making mech marines is perfectly logical on this map. You don't have to do it necessarily, but I generally would think you should make a mech marine quite early on in the first 3 units. I would probably make a mech marine with a scout, because the advantage is that you not only will spot incoming mech marines, but you also, I'll phrase that the other way around. The advantage is not only potentially doing damage to your opponent, to the engineers that are going to be in this area, engineer in this area, like, engineers have to move out towards you across the map, right? Early on. Not only can you do damage, but you also spot incoming mech marines and can react accordingly. So, you know, a couple mech marine or 2 early on with a scout. I would encourage you to make a land scout with them. I'm fully in favor of that. At the moment, this engineer is very exposed, by the way. This engineer would be very exposed. We are making a scout, a tank, and a scout. So that's obviously more expensive than a mech marine, but it comes a little bit later. And also the fact that you have 1 tank and the scouts are quite late means that if a mech marine ends up here, this engineer is going to die. And there's nothing you can do about it, because you can't cover this area and this area with a single tank unless you have scouts across the map earlier than this, spotting incoming threats. So that's that. Next thing, expanding engineers. Which way do they move? Generally, you send 1 engineer this direction, right? So you send 1 south. Now, what I like to do, so when you're playing maps, which are classic maps, really, well, any map, but maps that get played a lot, that you will play a lot, that appear on ladder often, you want a routine to the map. Doesn't mean a build order, it means a routine. I would say they're different things, but for me, I send engineer into the water here, right? That protects it from labs. So engineer does not go to this position. Engineer goes into the water so that it can't be raided except by a bomber, and then you build these 3 mexes, right? Then what I've done in the past is maybe build navy straight away there. Other times I've moved to here, built a mechs, and then built navy here. Now what I do is into the water, build these 3 mexes, and then straight to these 4 mexes. Because these 4 mexes are close together. This is the major expansion that you need. And yeah, so that's what I do. Into the water, 3 mexes, over to the 4 mexes, and then maybe make a PD to defend. And then the hydro and the factory, etc. Carry on. Next thing, this engineer, grab some trees. These are tree groups. You can grab some of these trees, build the 2 mexes, build these 2 mexes, then head into the water, build these 3, and then from there, I mean, you can go to the hydro, or you can go to these 2 mexes, or you can build a torp defense here. Is not a bad idea either. After you build these 3 mexes, I think Zoc used to do that back in the day. So that's that one. Then this guy, another line. So this is the normal line. 2 mexes here, and then up the plateau, get the 3 mexes on the radar. That's fine. You can also go here, get these 3 mexes, and then get the reclaim, or in the reverse order, get the reclaim and then the 3 mexes, and then, you know, maybe you can make a PD, or you can do something else. PD in this position is sometimes is, you know, not totally uncommon, but also maybe not necessary strictly. So this is normal. This guy doesn't have enough orders, by the way. This guy, yeah, I would not go to here because this is just way too exposed and you're not protected at all. Let the ACU get those mexes or follow-up engineer and it's all good. So we're going second land. This is only building tanks. I would suggest building at some point some engineers out of this factory as well. Some things, you know, there's a lot of rules that, well, self-imposed rules that need to be thought about. So one of the rules that, you know, people have is that you just make engineers out of the first factory, and you need to, you know, burn a lot of these rules to improve. Actually, now here's the engineer. Will he actually escape from the lab? It looks like he might. So, you know, one of the rules that people have in their head is the first factory makes the engineers, okay? But of course, on certain maps, it's obvious that that rule doesn't work. For example, the ditch or the Rosa or whatever, maps with tons of reclaim, or even, you know, desert arena, this kind of thing, right? On this map, at some point you will want to make some extra engineers. You want to make them from multiple factories. So for now it's fine to make tanks, but at some point soon, when all of these mexes, like if you just look, you're gonna get a lot. Hang on. Oh, was that a bomber that I missed? Wait, how? He actually did get killed from this far away. Did the scout finish him? Jesus. Okay, that's unlucky. But yeah, on this map, you know, we're gonna have a lot of mexes soon, because think of all the expanding engineers, I mean minus this one, that are gonna grab mexes at a similar time, which means you're gonna get a huge influx of mass. And typically on this map, getting all those mexes at once puts us into a power stall, because you need a huge amount of power suddenly to power all of the mass extractors and use the mass that you're generating. Like already at this point, we have a power deficit, right? So we've just gotten minus on power, and we're equal on mass. Okay, so we actually have to spend this 500 mass. If we start spending that, we're going to be like minus 100 power. If we go to, you know, minus 5, minus 10 mass or whatever. But on top of that, this guy's about to grab 3 mexes. This guy's about to grab 3 mexes, like very soon. You would have extra mexes already here. So we need a lot of power right now. We need a lot of engineers. So we have 5 engies in the base, right? 2 building power, 3 building factories. A couple extra engineers out of this factory would be very, very helpful. Much more helpful than the tanks on the map. So this is why I say what some of the rules, you know, people think, well, my first factory builds the Engies. This is a fine rule generally, but you gotta break these things when the situation arises where it's like, okay, I need engineers. These these are the kind of things where it's like you gotta understand what rules you're actually applying to yourself, because this is one of those things where you just don't really think about it, but it's kind of how your brain works already. You don't make extra engineers. Like we can see all these factories. This factory is also not going to make any engineers. So, you know, are we actually going to have enough? The answer is no. Not really. More engineers would be of much more help to us than extra tanks. Okay, so we spotted a... Yeah, we're not going to worry too much about things like this. We will talk about, for example, replacing this expanding engineer. So this is quite a strange order to give, right? So we're going here, and why are we going all the way back over here to build factories? That doesn't really make any sense, okay? Pretty simple. Next thing, like this makes sense. We're gonna walk around, get these two mechs, and build a factory right next to where the Engie's gonna be, right? So why aren't we doing this here? I have no idea. You have some idea about building factories here, apparently, instead of here. I don't know. But also, there's no expansion to the bottom. The ACU is alone. This is a classic move, and it's a good one. Just be careful you don't shoot the ground when you give an attack order. Better to give a move order, really, generally, but that's fine. That's a good move there, and you caught the bomber with your only inti, which is nice. Although it looks like it will get a bomb off. We are pausing a lot, so this is going to take a while, but I want to try and give as much information as possible. This raid has done pretty well, and this is a classic position to attack and raid. As is this, so it looks like you do know the map more or less. You know some of the basic points of attack anyway. So yeah, the lack of expansion to the bottom with extra engineers is again because there's only one factory making any engineers. And it's not enough. Again, we actually have more mass now and we have less power. And we have a greater power deficit and we still have +0 mass. So this is what this map does to you. Even when you lose an expanding engineer, you have too much mass. And even when you're not expanding to places where you should be, for example, this position, still have too much mass. So that means you don't have enough engineers. You don't have enough build power. You need more than one factory building engineers, even temporarily. Well, yes, temporarily in the opening, in the first few minutes. So the bomber gets a kill. It gets 3 kills, in fact, and that is super painful. Now, do we have any reaction? And do we build any more engineers to replace those? No, we don't. We already had not enough engineers, and we lost 3 in the base, which is where we need them. And there's no actual reaction to that damage. Now we're at 900 mass, we're at 0 power. And our economy is far from where it should be. And we can't expand. We can't send extra engineers to expand because we need everybody building right now. So, and there's the power stall. So now we've experienced the full-on crafty experience. This is what Tag Crafty's Maximus does to you. It does that to your economy. And now we're going to have to pause air. And we're going to have to just stop building factories and build only power. Now you can see there's loads of engineers building power. These two engies can't afford to build factories. So, cool. This is what Crafty is all about. So this will happen to everyone. But the trick is to build more engineers. That's the trick. The trick is not, oh, if you need more engineers on power earlier, it stands to reason you need more engineers. That's the thing. So now we got to fix our economy. Let's see what we do. Still no extra engineers from any other factory. We got to catch up. So instead of throwing this factory down, throw in like 2 additional P-gens, and then go back to factories. So you don't slow your factories down too much, but you also get a bit closer to equilibrium on your power income. Leave these guys doing what they're doing. This is maybe too much power. Maybe. Don't know if you need to cube that much right now, but we'll see how that goes. Next thing is navy. We're still at we're at 6 minutes and we have no naval factory, and we also have no scouting information on the opponent. So do we have an air scout? We have 1 air scout in the base, and this air scout has to start moving around. Just you go here, move order to here, move order to here, and then you're going to spot stuff in the water, and you're going to spot stuff in the base, and then you move away and scout over here or something, and then you see what's going on. But you have no naval factory right now, and this map has many mexes in the water. So you got 3 mexes there, 3 there, 3 here, 3 here, and then we got like 2 2 1 2 2 1. So we got tons of mexes in the water, and we also got hydrocarbons, and your bases can be hit from the water by frigates. Navy is hugely important, and if you don't have a naval factory at this point, then you have to react. Again, we still have this like single engineer is going to build a factory all the way over here, and so what you need to do is you need to build a torp defense now. Well, first you need to scout, see if he has naval factories. I guarantee you he should do. He definitely should have a naval factory at this point, and if he doesn't, I don't know why he doesn't. But you should bet that he has a naval factory on this map at this point. And you should, because you haven't scouted, you should assume that he does, and you should build torpedo defense with multiple engineers, as in 2 minimum should build torpedo defense. More likely 3 to 4 engineers should build torpedo defense. So let's take a look with our superior map vision. First frigate has just come out of his factory before we have started a factory, and he's making his 3rd naval factory right now. So naval control is obviously completely lost, right? We don't have navy. He has navy. He has 2 factories to 0. He has 1 frigate to 0. So we're in trouble, because this frigate is going to come over here and begin killing our power, which is exactly what we need on Craftiest. We need the hydro, and we need these P-gens that are right next to the hydro. And that's what he's going to come over and kill, because it's tagged Craftiest. Everyone knows that that's what you do. What else would you be doing with your frigates? There's no better targets than those on the map. So, again, assume that he has navy at this point. I mean, this gives it away that there's navy. If you notice this with the land scout. Also, the air scout's still not really doing anything. Like, you can't see his main base. You haven't seen his main base, and you haven't seen the water to find the naval factories. But, yeah. You gotta assume that he has navy. Grab 4 NGs, 3 NGs, 2 NGs minimum. Build torpedo defense, just barely in the water. Don't build it out here somewhere. Just build it as close to the shore as possible, and then build naval factories right next to it. And then you're fine. Then you have naval production. He cannot efficiently attack that once there's a torpedo defense, and navy is, you know, safe. The way you lose navy is by having no production. That's how you lose navy. You lose navy not really by not having no units, but by having no production. Because if you have production, you can have units eventually. Without production, he can then spread his stuff everywhere to block you from getting back in and getting more production, and then you've lost navy. If you can't get factories in the water, that's when navy is lost. And so you need to first build defenses for your production, and then construct the production around the defenses. And then navy is cool, and there's no problems. And then you can afford to be late to navy, as long as you can get a torp defense and stuff, right? So that's a major issue. So you've kind of saved your resources here. You know, you sort of rebalanced your economy. You had a big old power stall there. I don't know if you actually paused air. It didn't seem like it, so you probably could have done that. Your air scout is dead now. It still hasn't actually scouted anything. You can see multiple blips in the water though, thanks to this nice radar. And yeah, what's going on? I mean, this is a huge problem. So you can see over here the enemy has their base, and you still have not ever sent anything to build this. Nothing. No engineer has come to the bottom side from you at all. So that means none of this, no hydro, no mexes here whatsoever except this one, which is now dead. And that's a huge problem. You just decided you don't want this entire expansion. There's nothing here for you. You've taken these 3 mexes with the ACU. So this is just a huge mistake with no justification whatsoever, except that your economy tanked and you were focused on that. But ultimately, even if your economy tanks, even if you fix that, but you don't expand, then you didn't actually fix your economy. You made it worse. You need to fix your economy and expand at the same time. Otherwise, you failed to fix your economy. You've just like balanced things, but balancing is not the same as having a better economy, because, you know, again, this is another thing where simply balancing the economy is not succeeding economically. Having more stuff than your opponent is succeeding economically, even if you overflow, but you have more stuff anyway. Then you've done better than your opponent, who may have had a perfect balance, but he has less stuff because he actually just collected less mass, but used it efficiently. So here you've sort of neglected taking more stuff for trying to balance the economy, and now you've sort of overcorrected. You did actually... Well, okay, here's the thing. If you had actually expanded, you might not have built too much power. So... can't always say that. I didn't call that correctly. More so if you had expanded, you would have probably been able to spend this power, but as it was, you weren't able to, because you didn't take, you know, I don't know, 8 or 10 mexes that you could have. And so in the meantime, other things have happened. You know, there's raids going on and stuff. There's no radar in the base, by the way. This is why this is dead, really. Realistically, this is dead because there's no radar. You got 2 tanks here, but they're not actually going to do anything. You can see frigate here, frigate here. There's multiple frigates in this area. And at this point, you really have to focus on Navy. Because now it's clear to you that Navy is a massive problem. So what you have to do is the same thing you had to do before. Which is, but now it's much more urgent. You have to get engineers to the water and get torpedo defense. Now maybe you can do it here, maybe he'll spot that and kill the NGs. Maybe you can do it here. This is a good position, but because you have no base here, it's difficult to get enough engineers there quickly enough. So this is a problem. This is a big problem that we have. Also, your opponent is ground firing the production of your units from the naval factory, so you have to pause the naval factory. If we look here, watch. He's ground firing where the submarine is being produced, so you're simply wasting mass, and he is destroying it as soon as it begins building. He's also, because frigates have AoE, destroying the factory at the same time. This is why you need torpedo defense, because a single frigate can deny a single factory forever in the Navy. Next thing, this is no good, right? So this is misunderstanding the map. Totally. We have T2 land, we have T2 mechs, and we have a second T2 mechs, right? This is the wrong approach on this map, totally. So again, the map has dozens of mexes, right? I mean, we don't have half the map at all. but you have 28 mexes, okay? The islands are untaken, this base is untaken. These are like... Yes, you have both sets of these mexes, but overall you do not have half the map. You're kind of close to half the map, but not that close. 28 mexes. 29 with the T2. So don't make T2 mexes, because what you want to do is take every single mex on the map, because they're all up for grabs. Like, there's no mechs that you can't fight for on this map, really. You can destroy the base mexes with T1 frigates. You can destroy all of the navy with T1 subs. You can raid this with T1 frigates. The place where the ACU is standing, you can't raid, I guess, but everywhere else, every other mex is up for grabs. You can raid this. You can obviously take the middle, as your opponent has done with no units. He gets a PD and 2 mexes for free. That's ridiculous. But you're making long-term investments, and now you are in a terrible position. Like, what are the T2 mexes? You're gonna spend 2,000 mass on these, well, 1,800 mass on these mexes here, and meanwhile you didn't send a single NG to this position. 4 mexes that are yours, and a hydro, and these mexes as well. There's no real sense in making T2 mexes and making T2 land. Another long-term investment, over 1,000 mass in that. Make T1 units. T1 units win this game. Make T1 land, make T1 navy. You have a submarine. Now we see the problem with submarines here. They take a long time to kill a frigate. In the meantime, the frigate is killing naval production, and it's killing power production, and it's shooting at your air units that come out of the air factory as well. So this is no good. And at the same time, we can see that the opponent has a lot of T1 land units, because again, we have T2 land. So long-term investments are costing you, because you can't afford to make these investments in the long term when you don't have what you're supposed to have already. Your ACU literally could die if all of these units came down to the south. You would be forced into the water, and your opponent could take this base. And the economy now is going to tank once again, because, well, we lost the hydro, and you know, and also because of the fact that you have more mass income thanks to the T2 mexes. Now you can't afford to actually even spend this mass. Now we're going down to +4 and +5, because if you stall, your mexes will generate less mass, because they cost energy to produce mass. So now those T2 mexes are actually less efficient than they even should be. And yeah, we're in a terrible position now. Even though you actually have more total mass, a lot of stuff looks similar, but I don't want to play from here. There's no way I want to play this map from here. What the opponent can do is just build some subs. This disappears. You're already losing these mexes. These mexes are gone soon. These mexes should be gone soon if your opponent has 1 sub. And the opponent can take those without any real trouble. And he can take all the water mexes. You don't have the islands either. You never know, he could have those as well at this point. It's quite late in the game to go for islands. So there's so many mexes to fight for that long-term stuff has to be very carefully invested in, and you've gone for T2 mexes and T2 land, when really you need to rely on T1 and just focus on map control on this map. This map is all about map control. It's about winning navy, it's about taking the islands faster, it's about making raids, it's about faster expansion, and also balancing all of those things. So this is a nice raid, but it's very minor compared to what your opponent is able to achieve. Now I see a submarine here, so you're going to lose those very soon. And is T2 land going to do much for you? Only, oh wow, T2 Air as well. Okay, so yeah, way too many tech investments. Also, the beauty of T2 Land is in the support factories, really. One T2 factory, adding one T2 unit to a T1 army is not that big a deal. Having 10 pillars against, you know, an army of T1 is a big deal. So I don't really like the T2 land is going to do so little for you. You're going to have some mongoose. Well, big whoop, it's going to take them a long time to kill anything. And you're not even assisting this factory very much. There's like 3 engineers assisting it. So, okay, you get a couple of T1 units, T2 units. That's pretty useless. And now you've gone T2 air because you've lost navy, which is understandable. Okay, that's, yeah, you don't have navy, so you're like, I need torpedo bombers then, I guess. At this point, yes, the opponent has so many T1 units. I'm sure that, yeah, he has 8 frigates and 4 subs. I mean, yes, it's gone way too long to actually kind of get back in navy without torpedo bombers. That's pretty much true. But of course, the trick is to not leave it so long. At this point, this is an awful position to be in. So it was bad before, now it's really bad, and it's not really improving. So let me see if there's a way to do something here. Yeah, this transport is a classic. You tried to get the engineers in the transport, then you gave the order to move away, and then the engineers were told to do something else before they got in the transport, I guess. That's what happened there. Normal stuff. Is there something you can do here? Well, wow, minus 500 power. Yeah, you're not reacting with the power income. You need to pause your air factory, especially the T2 air factory. Torpedo bombers are quite expensive on power, similar to T2 transport. Also the scouting is still very poor. You still never scouted the base, basically, and so you didn't know he has T2 land. You never saw his naval factories, and now you're going to try and walk towards the base, which is something you can do on this map. You can walk into the base. The problem is you can't walk into the base at this time in the game with no gun upgrade or AC upgrade period against T2 land UEF, because you're just going to build triads and you have T1 units and maybe like 1 mongoose here and no AC upgrades. So no, it's not possible. Now this would be, here's the thing though, walking into the base is viable on this map. You can walk into the base. Thing is, you want an upgrade, you want to do it way sooner, and it is the right approach. If you lose navy, yeah, you should crush the land. The problem is you don't really have any advantage on land either, so you're kind of shit out of luck. So if you look at the land units, he's got 8 pillars, he's got 7,500. In land units you have, you know, way less. So walking into the base is possible on this map, but you need scouting, you need a better land army, you need an AC upgrade, and you need to do it sooner. But it can be done. And even the threat of walking into the base with the gun ACU can allow you to do things elsewhere on the map afterwards. But now you will simply die to the land army. So yeah, there's also T2 mechs here. Okay, so first things first, the, you know, breaking out of certain rules that you abide by, which is, oh, I need tanks, you know, so I have to build tanks out of every factory that isn't the first one, kind of thing. Definitely need to, you know, just open your mind a little bit there. Break some rules that you may, well, first become aware of some rules that you abide by, and then break them. So, you know, more engineers. Engineers are your economy in the opening. And, you know, well, in the opening especially, engineers are your economy. Because they build the mexes, they build the power. So they're your economy. So more engineers means better economy, and if you have more resources available, you need more engineers to build those resources and to use the resources. So you know, you need them in both senses. Simple expansion. This bottom side was not expanded to with engineers. The ACU was left to do it alone. The ACU can't do this expansion alone. It's not possible for the ACU to build everything in a timely manner down here. Not possible. You need engineers with them. Then there's also the Navy. If you're late on Navy, you have to make torpedo defense, and then you build the production next to the torpedo defense, and then you try and get more production than the opponent has, or at least equal. And then it's about, you know, microing, using your Navy well in the battles. But in this case, you basically got one naval unit out in the whole game, and you can't really win on this map unless you're actually planning to win with no Navy on this map. It's extremely difficult, even if you do try and plan for that. If the opponent is good, that's not going to work. So Navy is super important. If you win Navy, you win a huge amount of map control and intel, and puts you in a great position like it did for Terminal here. And Navy, not having Navy was the key issue. Also, you know, you probably wouldn't have built T2 mexes if you actually had some naval production, because you would have been able to spend your mass a bit better because Navy is kind of expensive. So yeah, instead of Navy, you have T2 mexes and T2 land, and yeah, you can see how well that did for you. It sucked. And yeah, expansion to other places was also not on point, like the islands. But yeah, I think we covered a lot. Yeah, you got totally overrun there. You just had less units. You were just behind in every aspect at this point. And I think it's good that this thing was on in the corner so that people could see that the position of the map is very different to what you see in the top right. So like at points, Ortismo had more total mass, and I was saying, this doesn't look good. At this point, he's like 6k mass behind, right? Which is, you know, it's significant, but it's not like... He's not way behind, but the game is totally over at this point. When they basically cross even, Autismo was in a much worse position already. So this is another thing where, you know, the stats lie to you. Because they're just stats. The stats can't see the position of the game like you can. Human brain is a bit more perceptive than simple numbers. And wow, the opponent even had T2 Navy, so you were absolutely dead. T2 Navy is crushing on this map if you can actually get it up. It's difficult because it's very expensive. And the fact that he actually has half of a cruiser out, and he has more land units and all of this stuff. Like, yeah, the game is, it's turned into a crush here in the end. Like, that's brutal that he has T2 Navy, actually. Fair play to him. So, yeah, a lot of things. And in the moment, it probably, like, when you're watching the game, it doesn't seem quite so brutal until you reach the end point and you're like, okay, well, I have less of everything, and I just die to T1 land mainly. But this map is very typical to, well, it's a typical map, but it really points out the importance of all of the small things that add up and add up and add up to an absolute crushing defeat. You know, it's, you know, a bit late in Navy and not reacting correctly. It's, you know, this engineer got raided by a scout somehow. This freaking scout killed this Engie. Lack of expansion to the side. You know, all of these things. a lot of small things and maybe some bad fights as well in the land, which we didn't really focus on. We focused on more larger scale things, but all of these things added up to a pretty crushing victory in 15 minutes. So yeah, hope that helps. Hope you and others benefit from some of the info here, and you can, you know, get past this plateau. It's normal to plateau in rating, by the way. Autismo is saying he thinks he's plateaued skill wise. Plateauing skill wise and plateauing rating wise is very different. He said skill wise, which is obviously more critical than rating. Those things are not the same thing. But yeah, hopefully this helps you get past some of the thinking that's keeping you in the 14 to 1500 range, skill wise and rating wise. And yeah, hope this helped other people as well. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you soon for another game. Another, yeah, we can see a big score lead. Score lead doesn't tell the whole story, does it? Even a bit of mass waste from the opponent. See, tricky. All right, see you next time, guys.